Jenny, say
I can
hello.
hear you. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
There you go. I
Oh,
was
dear me.
concerned.
It's always the tech, isn't it? It's always the tech.
yeah.
I did say to Amit that we don't have it at work because it's locked down. So I thought I'd sussed it on my personal laptop, but it let me down. But never mind, we're here on the phone.
Brilliant. Well,
Nice to
thank
meet
you.
you all.
And you
Good
too.
morning.
I'm just conscious that three's a crowd or four or five or whatever it is. And Amit's kindly dialed in. So I'm going to teleport out of here in a minute and leave Amit to continue the interview with you, Jenny, if that's all right.
That's
The
fine.
the bits that you probably didn't hear prior to you coming on were the importance and criticality of inclusion, celebrating differences, recognizing diversity, and the impact of everyone, not just particular community groups, not just males or females, white or ethnic minority, but really trying to raise the ambitions and aspirations of everyone. And it's something that ABC, Alan's been there from the start, Amit's been there, and Amit's leading on a number of things. But actually, we could and would be unable to do this on our own. And without the critical support of, for me, some of the best organizations that represent our community, our Northeast, so who have that sense of purpose, that sense of positivity, that sense of passion to try and support everyone. And actually, there's no one better typifying that than you, Jenny, and Newcastle, Building Society as well. And it's like, for me, it's just it's a great organization. So anyway, let's kick off very briefly because I am going to disappear.
Yeah, I'm going to have to
Who,
spell them off at the same time.
okay. Jenny, let's start by asking who you are, what you do, and why you do it, please.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Jennie Pitt. I'm the head of diversity and inclusion at Newcastle Building Society. And why do I do it? Well, that's a really deep question to start with. But I guess I've always been passionate about creating inclusive environments. I think going back to my childhood, I grew up, my parents had nothing. So I grew up in real social deprivation in a place called Oldham, which you might have heard of in the north west. And I guess was constantly told at school that we wouldn't make anything of ourselves because of the background that we'd had and the lack of opportunity. So I think throughout my life, I studied psychology, did a master's in psychology, was interested in understanding kind of the psychology of background of different groups. And then I think that's always driven me in organisations to add a previous HR background, but then wanted to get into the inclusion space because there's so many disparities that exist for different communities. And I think it is about how we can work to, as organisations, to remove some of those barriers and disparities and just create more opportunities and create more inclusion and accessible, particularly from an employment perspective for everyone. So I think it's quite a deep question, but there's quite, it aligns to my values. And I think I'm really lucky now that I work in a role, and I have specialised for the last 10 years where I'm excited about work, I'm passionate about what I do, and I think really passionate about trying to make a difference for those that have, are facing barriers or have less opportunity or, whatever it might be from whatever perspective. And I think organisations play a huge role in that. I think getting everybody together, creating that, as there's a collective voice, we can have so much more of an impact. And Newcastle, I'm really lucky because we're mutual. It isn't about profit and it isn't about kind of what we make. It's about putting that everything that we make, because we're mutual, goes back into serving our communities. So it's a really purpose-driven organisation. So I feel incredibly, lucky to be working for an organisation that matches my own values. And I think the work that you do, I think it's funny because we sponsored the Mela this year, and I think we've tried to get a coffee in the diary. I'm sure we have for some time. And obviously sponsoring the Mela, I think then obviously Ammar contacted me about sponsoring ABC, and when I did more research on your website, just all the incredible work that you're doing, you know, to remove inequalities and some of those structural barriers to inclusion. I think you are really aligned to what we stand for and what we're trying to achieve as well as an organisation. So it felt like a natural fit to get involved in the awards, and I'm sure there's much more work we can do together as well beyond this.
No, thank you, and absolutely, and you know, I remember having my little passbook years ago when Mum got me it, right, and we put our pennies into the building society, and you used to go and get it stamped and whatever it was. It's you know, so I've got avid memories of that, and Mum purposefully sort of going and saying, I want to join that building society because this is where we live and this is where we're from, and there's a real sense of purpose around that. And then experiencing some of the work that you do with education, young people, the boardroom challenges, and various other support that you quite discreetly, and the autonomy that each of the branches have in supporting their locality. You know, I think the work that you do is fantastic, and we're incredibly grateful and proud of you know, the association and the support. And you're absolutely right. There's far more that we can do, and it's something that Amit and Kevin and Alan are leading on as well. You know, making sure that when we talk about inclusion, we're not creating further division by that. You know, what we're saying is, of course, there are inequalities. Of course, you know, females require more support because of the gender inequality. Of course, ethnic minorities may not get the same opportunities as other communities, but actually it isn't a case of marginalizing the majority. It's about bringing everyone together and those shared experiences, and actually listening and hearing and addressing some of those issues that they might have on their mind, and having very open conversations. I mean, Ammar hosted a round table on awards earlier this week, and part of the conversations were what are reasonable adjustments and what are unreasonable adjustments, and how do they, because they differ from a huge corporate who has the resources to a corner shop or a you know, a restaurateur or a small firm of solicitors or whatever. You know, there's certain things that you can do, certain things that you can't. And I know you've spent a lot of space in this, and it's wonderful to hear, because Oldham's a lovely place as well. There's that similarities around industrialism and all of those things with our wonderful Northeast. But what does success look like for you, Jenny?
I think success, I think we're a long way off kind of where we need to get to, but I think success is if we're coming together, and like you say, if we're joining forces, we're listening, we're having the conversation, that's the start. And I think from that, for me, success would be that we've, you know, everybody's got equal opportunity, and everybody's supported to thrive, and there's respect, acceptance, you know, understanding. I think, yeah, there's a lot of division, isn't there, at the moment? And I think that's been driven from social media, from politics, and, you know, it's some of these topics are emotive, but actually, if we start having conversations and raising understanding and sharing experiences, then I think then that leads to people thinking a little bit differently and can lead to change. So I think, yeah, success is if we continue to have the conversation, we've got to focus on this, but removing the barriers and, yeah, giving everybody an equal chance.
Wonderful. So forgive me, I am going to hand over.
That's all right. I know Ammar did say you needed to leave.
Yeah.
Great to briefly meet you.
Yeah, and you too, Jenny. We need to get that coffee in.
We do, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm chairing a panel at Newcastle University with international students is what I am. So, you know, demonstrating that inclusion and promoting our
brilliant.
So anyway, take care.
Thank you, Alan. Take care. Thank you.
Bye. 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 Take care.
Yeah. Bye, Alan. But so Jenny, tell us a little bit about how you got.
Sorry, I interrupt. I'm just going to have to go as well. I've got to sort my sister with a doctor's appointment, so I'll catch up with you later. Jenny, nice to hear from you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you, Alan. Bye bye.
I'm sure you will. It's a bit like the Flintstones when you meet us all, but in person. Try not to worry.
Look forward to it.
We're equally odd, right? Thanks a lot. See you soon, Ammar.
Cheers, see you
Kevin?
soon.
See you
Bye.
later.
Bye.
It's so funny, Jenny, because sometimes when we meet and we do show business, I think some of them forget that it's a radio show. So it's like, oh, see you later, as if we're actually all friends meeting in a coffee shop. So Jenny, tell us a little bit about how did you get to Newcastle then?
How did I get to Newcastle?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
how did you end up in Newcastle, the city, and then tell me how you ended up at the Building Society as well.
So yeah, I think there's something really delightful about Newcastle as a region. I actually live in North Yorkshire, so I travel into the region. So I am on the edge. We have still got a presence in North Yorkshire, but there is something just really friendly about the North East. And I think, you know, like I said, I've specialised for 10 years now in this space. But what I love about Newcastle Building Society, and when I was approached for the role, I absolutely snapped the hands off, because I can honestly say they are really genuinely purpose driven, and that drives absolutely everything we do. It's embedded, it's woven into everything. You know, it's our strongest USP, I would say, and we're a bit of a hidden gem, if I'm honest, because I think it's not always that visible, all the great stuff that we do in our communities and actually what we stand for. So I think, yeah, our CEO's amazing. He's a real trailblazer. I think we're kind of taking a very different approach to financial services than what some of the other big institutions are doing, in that we're investing in the high streets. We see that that's a really big opportunity for organisations to, you know, regions to thrive. You know, the high street is a bit of a dying, you know, when you walk around the town centres these days, everything's closing. So we see that as a key enabler for communities to thrive, really. And we've been a bit innovative in our approach, in that we're opening branches, and we've got 5 branches in community spaces, so in libraries, in the YMCA in North Shields is a recent one. So in Hawes, we've got one, because obviously Hawes is a really rural village in North Yorkshire where there's no financial access. So again, part of our inclusion agenda is making financial services accessible and inclusive for everybody. So that feels like we're bucking the trend in some ways, but it's great because it's allowing us, where we've got a branch space, we can do lots of great community work, as well as operate what we do as our business, which is financial services, savings, mortgages and financial advice.
Well, it's funny because we're talking about that community space that you do at the branches. So for the last 4 or 5 years now, my mum runs a Friday coffee group at one of your branches in the little meeting room. She's got about 15 friends that all come together on a Friday afternoon. They grab a sandwich, they have a bit of food, and they literally use your community. And that's the first time that I was made aware that there was a community space that can be used, a meeting room for people to get together. And it's great, because actually otherwise these people wouldn't get together.
Yeah.
And it's a space that you guys,
places. Yeah, exactly.
and it's a space that you guys have got that isn't being utilised, and actually, and do you know, concept wise, it was great. I was like, actually, I don't understand why more businesses and more businesses on the high street that have got that room behind the meeting room, or they've got a lot of space, why they don't open it up. Because since then, actually, Mum's opened up an account. We used to have it as a child as well, with the little book that used to go in the little machine, and you see your little balance going up and down and stuff. And then as you'd expect, you moved over to banks, and banks took over, and it just all of a sudden you don't think. Well, I don't think of a building society when I think of a bank. I would literally go to some of the major ones. But since in the last 4 or 5 years, all of my stuff and my mum's stuff and our family stuff is moved over to the Building Society, because A, she goes every week anyway, so she's in the building and it can get done. You've got a high street presence. You've got one, actually, you're the only one where I live, just north of Newcastle. You're the only bank or Building Society that's left here, other than the post office, if you have a post office account. And it's just, it's so great to be able to go into a branch sometimes. Yes, you can do a lot of stuff online, but sometimes you just need that conversation, and we're losing that nowadays. You've got all these tech bots that if you go online and you're trying to do something, and you get this tech bot asking you what the problem is, and it's giving you a pre-programmed, a chat GPT-esque answer to your question. It's like, oh my God, like, and I work from home. I'm like, do I have some days I have no interaction with anyone.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, and to be honest, there's something about the passbooks that our members love as well. Like, you know, they want to keep them, and I think there's something, quite lovely about that. But we've got you know, even in the city of, which is quite exciting, we've got, you know, where French Connection used to be, that's going to be our flagship branch. That's opening next year. So that will be the ground floor financial services, but the rest of that building, so it's 5 floors, will be community spaces.
Oh, that's why you've got a great big site.
That's why we did the wrap round it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
thought it was
that's
just great PR, but you've took over that site at the monument.
Yeah, so we'll be transferring our Northumberland, because obviously we've got a branch on Northumberland Street, but we'll be moving into there next year. But that'll give us again the opportunity to really do so much community work, because there'll be 4 floors available for Mella in the city. It'll be right outside there, so we can look at how we can align those activities as well next year. So it's exciting, but it's very different to other financial institutions, which again feels quite special.
And you do the standard stuff like business accounts and charity accounts and all of that good stuff, don't you?
Business accounts is more banking, so we do savings, charity, mortgages, financial advice, all that stuff you can do through us, but not business accounts. That's more banking for like community groups and organisations. That would be available. Not a business one.
But in terms of that kind of charity accounts but there's lots of community groups that are doing great work out in Newcastle, and actually sometimes they need a community account, and you do you provide grants and stuff, funding and stuff as well.
We do, and actually with businesses, because we do have a presence on the high street, what we did develop is something called One Banks. So for local businesses where banks were removing their presence, there's a cash point, so the way they can pay in funds. So again, that's making, because for SMEs, if then they're getting cash from their business, that's again still making financial services accessible through that kind of innovative solution that we've put in. But the community fund is again another one of our I suppose what makes us a little bit different. We partner with the Community Foundation, and we give out, like, we have 2 grant periods per year, April and October, and community organisations, charities can apply for funding through that grant, and that's all obviously through partnership with the Community Foundation. It's administered through them. So that's something that we should definitely promote, and I encourage every community organisation that I meet to take a look at that. And I think the more that we develop our community partners connections, we've got a number of them now through a D&I lens, obviously Newcastle Mella being one of them, but SmartWorks that operate in the region, Albert Kennedy Trust are a LGBTQ plus homeless charity. So we're trying to do it across considering a range of different issues and groups. And obviously ABC, I'm sure, will be another partnership that will continue to look at what work we can do and to grow, because that's really important for us, is to listening. Everybody's got different needs. Everyone's got different kind of expectations from organisations. And I think unless we're connected to the communities and all of our communities, then how do we know that we're meeting everybody's needs and it is accessible and inclusive for everyone? So I think having that presence with different community organisations is really important to us. So we're excited to see we're still at the start, and I think, you know, we've got our own internal D&I strategy, Place to Be You, which stands for, you know, everybody being able to be the true and authentic selves and to thrive, and we look at that through our own employees, but also through a customer and community lens. We're still in its infancy, so we've spent the first year getting the foundations in place, but that's continuing to grow and embed. And I think the community aspect is a really key part of that.
Yeah, and we've got at ABC, we've got our inclusive innovation framework that we're pushing out in terms of for businesses, because actually, as you're aware and you're in the area, and not all businesses have D&I teams and departments, and actually sometimes they don't know the difference between diversity and inclusion as well.
Yeah,
they might.
yeah,
A lot of the work that they're doing is very much on diversity and maybe teaching about other cultures and being accepted. But what they don't realise is actually sometimes that's not inclusion.
yeah.
And where we've got a whole framework where we go in and speak to businesses and talk to them about how inclusion is and actually how can you be innovative with that. And there's a whole framework and a module. I'm trying to think of the word that you used at school, a syllabus. That's the word. So it's a whole syllabus that we go through in order for businesses to start that journey. And like you said, everyone's pretty much on the start of that journey, but that is a very long journey to be.
Yeah.
But just quickly, last couple of minutes, what do you see if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and you could see and you could make the world a better place for inclusion, what would your magic wand be? What was one thing that you'd want to change straight away be?
I think, gosh, that's again another philosophical question.
I said I wasn't going to ask any different questions.
Just for everybody to have greater empathy and understanding, and to understand and kind of spend some time just experiencing other people's perspectives, to spend a day in a life of somebody else. Because I think if everybody just got the chance to do that, people would change. We spend a lot of time focusing on storytelling and, letting people kind of think about things in a different way. So yeah, if we could eradicate, it would be just everyone just being together, united, no division, no kind of the nonsense that we get at the moment from, some of the that's driven through politics and social media, just being able to be united together and standing as one, really. I think you'd like to think that in where we are in the 21st century, that we'd be in that position. It feels like we've made some progress, but there's still such a lot to do, isn't there? I think.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so very much for joining the show today. So that was Jennie from Newcastle Building Society. This was Show Business on Spice FM.